Hey, it's Huck. And I apologize. It has been more than a few weeks since I posted a video. I think I last posted a video in, I don't know, it was around July 19th or something like that. And, I had intended to post a video just prior to the last set of debates. Well, the truth was I kind of got preoccupied. I have some bad days where it's really hard for me to talk. I can't explain it, but I have some kind of drainage or something that comes up. I don't know what it is, but it kind of coats my, my larynx, and it's just never ending, like clearing my throat, and it's really difficult for me to talk. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know if there's one thing I like to do, it's talk. So, anyway, I'm feeling much better today, so let's hope that continues. And at any rate, one of the things I kind of wanted to mention today, and I'll get off of the topic, is, right now, I guess my impression of the last set of debates here. Now, we've had two sets of debates, and the upcoming set of debates, or debate, as the case may be, we should see a number of our previous participants, not meeting the threshold required to take part. So there should be, at this point in time, out of the 23 or 24 announced Democratic candidates, I think we're still, at around less than 10 that have, that are likely to be eligible for the September debate. I know among them are all the front runners, certainly Biden and Sanders and Warren and Kamala Harris and Booker and Buttigieg and Beto O'Rourke, and I think right now one of the candidates that's probably closest to getting in but hasn't quite met the I may not. I think she's about 30,000 donations short, as far as I know, is Kirsten Gillibrand. Did I pronounce that right? At any rate, I think Andrew Yang is qualified now, and he's an interesting candidate. I would not have taken his candidacy very seriously before, but I see just this week, his name keeps popping up in my news feeds. So, I'm going to have to keep an eye on him. I really hadn't counted him as a factor at all. But I guess, hey, if you're going to promise everybody $1,000 a month, people are going to listen. So I don't know. At any rate, what I really wanted to mention as far as all of this goes is, if there's one thing that I took away from the second set of debates, is that, nobody, it really wasn't a make or break debate, for any of the front runners, at least. The one thing that I took away is that, frankly, and this is just my opinion, Biden is looking more and more his age. And, I know he was chosen by President Obama to be his running mate, largely, I understand, because of how sharp he was, in debates and in those kind of exchanges. And, he certainly has always had a good grasp of policy. He was a real mover and shaker in the Senate, certainly on top of judicial matters, certainly in foreign relations. There really wasn't too much going on in the way of legislation that he didn't, have his hands, on, because of his long tenure in the Senate. And he had a reputation of having the respect, of fellow members of the Senate on both sides of the aisle, which not everyone, certainly today, can claim. But the truth is, he's showing real signs that he has lost a step. He's not as quick, to defend his positions. He's not as articulate in doing so anymore, and you have to wonder whether or not that's just signs of the fact that he's the oldest candidate that's running. In the so at any rate, I also wonder whether or not. Now I know the polls show that apparently the election were held now. He's showing that he would wipe up the floor basically with Trump, as a number of the other candidates look like they will. But the truth is, I don't think a lot of people are really paying that close of attention. Certainly, a lot of people aren't watching the debates. So whether or not their attitudes will change if they get a better, taste of, we can see how people are attacking him. He's the front runner. Biden is the front runner. So, clearly he's going to take some attacks. And, because of the, where politics have taken us, over the last few decades. And, our positions have changed. We realize that some of the policies of the 90s and the 2000 aughts maybe weren't the best policies, certainly in issues of, mandatory sentencing, incarcerating, drug users, for instance. Our attitudes and maybe our knowledge itself has shifted somewhat. Certainly on the on the left side of the fence, and so Biden is taking a lot of heat for his positions on things like trade, NAFTA, things like the incarceration rates today due to some of the bills that he sponsored or voted for and helped push through as a member of the Senate long before he was the vice president of the United States. I think he's going to have an easier time defending his record as vice president than he is being a key member of the Senate. Seems like there's nothing he can say that he doesn't get kind of trounced on. And to a certain degree, I think that's unfair. But he has to defend himself. And if he's not able to do it articulately, that's going to harm his chances. So we'll have to see where that goes. One of the things I, have felt all along is that for a Democrat, typically, in a typical presidential election, for a Democrat to win, they have to excite, and inspire. And I'm not sure that Biden, really fits that mold. So a good question is, who do you think does? A lot of people feel that some of the candidates are, maybe too liberal. I support, for instance, Elizabeth Warren. But I'm interested and fascinated in hearing more about each of the candidates. And, and I've got my ear open. I think they all can make pretty good cases, in some policy. I clearly have some disagreements with many of them on, some specific issues, which brings me to one issue in particular. And I want to kind of close this video. I'm going to try to keep it under, 10 minutes or so today. And that is the whole gun reform issue, the gun violence issue. Clearly, with the 3 big incidents that have happened in the last few weeks, the incident in Gilroy, the incident in Dayton, Ohio, and of course, tragic incident in El Paso. It seems that, people are really taking another serious look, as they should. I said long ago, just about everything I can say on the, on the gun violence issue. I've got several videos on this channel where I speak as to the point and as detailed as I can on where I stand and what we should do. But it's interesting, Donald Trump has made some overtures, apparently, to members of the Democrat side of the aisle that he would like to do some meaningful, as he put it, meaningful background check legislation. And it's hard to take anything that Donald Trump says seriously. Again, as Rachel Maddow likes to say, watch what he does, not what he says. Still, this, if true, would be a beginning. And I think we need to do everything possible to write to particularly our senators, to try to push something through. So much needs to be done. And the Second Amendment is taken so greatly out of context. One of the assignments I would recommend for anybody that really wants to be a little bit more knowledgeable on the issue is Google the Federalist Papers number 29 and read what Alexander Hamilton had to say about exactly what he meant, what was meant by well-regulated militia as they were trying to sell, this Constitution. At any rate, I think most gun nuts, as I like to refer to them, I think most gun nuts would be surprised. It's clearly, Second Amendment clearly doesn't mean what they think it means. The Second Amendment basically, even according to the parameters established by what is now considered the last word, or at least the current word, in Antonin Scalia's decision in the Heller case, even Scalia, as conservative as he and the five-member majority were at that time, even Scalia writes that the Second Amendment does not guarantee every person a right to own any weapon. Clearly, it does not do that. Government does have the right to restrict certain weapons and certain people from weapons because of the nature of danger that they pose. And, and that's left somewhat vague, but it's there in the Heller decision. And so, we've got a lot of Supreme Court justices right now, particularly on the right side of the aisle, members like Kavanaugh, like, to a lesser extent, Gorsuch, certainly Thomas, who consider themselves in the same vein as Scalia, what they like to call originalists, people that somehow think they can discern the intent of the original meaning of the words that were written in the Constitution at the time by the founders. And yet these same people seem to ignore the meaning of the word weapon, of firearm, at the time that the Constitution was written. I mean, we were talking about weapons that were basically muskets that took, nearly a minute to load and reload. Not these, semi-automatic weapons that shoot as fast as you can pull the trigger, with magazines that are detachable that can shoot, 20 rounds, 30 rounds, 50 rounds, 100 rounds in, less than a few minutes. Ridiculous. But be that as it may, background checks, meaningful, universal background checks required of all gun purchases, that throw out these loopholes and these gun show loopholes and internet loopholes. Personally, I think that background checks should be required of any gun transfer, which is not required today. Not just purchases. I mean, there's a lot that should be done. There should be a ban on all semi-automatic weapons. There should be a limit to how much ammunition you can buy. There should be training, formal training before you can purchase any gun. There should be a waiting period before you can purchase any gun. There's a lot of things that should be done without depriving citizens of their right to, keep and bear arms. I don't know anybody that's proposing that all guns should be taken from people. But of course, that's the fallacy that they want to, promote, is that any law, any restriction is just that slippery slope that will lead to one day all of their guns being confiscated. That's why they don't want there to be a national registry. You have to register your car. At any rate, those are my thoughts for today. Be sure to write your senator and let them know how you feel about the gun issue. I will be talking to you here, hopefully in a shorter period of time than it took me to get this one up. Certainly, I think after this next debate, if not sooner. Anyway, I hope you're having a great time. I hope you have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the summer here. I'm trying to do that. And we'll see you again real soon.